go to bed or something.
What she home?
She talking on my phone, but I'm like, I need it. I'm gonna walk back to the car.
Baby, be careful. I'm waiting on some of y'all to come in here and see if y'all even gonna come in here. I first want to start this live off by saying I ain't shit because it's 12:04. But I had to get some money, man. I've been moving all morning. Then I went from moving all morning. Then I realized like I had hit my goal for the day because like I gotta make a certain amount of money a day in order for me to be like okay with the rest of my day. So I was like, we was moving our stuff. We still not done. We gotta now that we got all our stuff, we gotta just like clean the other apartment. But I'm sorry that I'm late. However, I'm here to tell y'all the real story of how me and Trey met because he left out some key pivotal parts because y'all know how y'all men are. Y'all don't pay attention to details. So, a lot of the stuff y'all be doing with him. I see it's one person in here. I'm sorry, two people in here. Can you come in and let me know who you are? Who's all in here? Comment and tell me that you in here so I can start talking to y'all. So I can retract those lies that Trey told y'all yesterday. That undetailed tale of what happened. Again, I ain't shit because my live is late. But look, I had to make some money. Like, I had to hit this shift. It's snowing like cats and dogs out here. And so what had happened was all of the orders started getting into promo. So girl had to get in there and get into it. You know what I'm saying? Baby, stop. Willie Earl here. Who else in here? I hate when y'all come in here and just sit in here and look and don't actually tell me that you're here. Okay, so let's jump into the story. You're gonna have to go back if you missed the beginning. I tried to wait on some of y'all to get in here. Anyway, so boom, little backstory. I had my oldest daughter, our oldest daughter, and before that, I was a high school dropout. My dad ended up incarcerated in my 11th grade year, and basically, for lack of a better words, I ended up in the streets, running the streets because of a series of events that happened with a couple of my family members that I was like, I don't want to live here with you. Like, and that's on period. So, anyways, so you know what happened when you run in the streets and you a kid, because at this time, I'm 16, 17. I'm running the streets and I end up getting pregnant. Okay, so I get pregnant, have my baby, and then when I had my baby, I had that moment that every mother has when you look into the other kid's eye and you like, I just want to give this kid the world. And then right directly following after that, my next moment was, but I don't even have a fucking high school diploma. So I was like, damn, I gotta go back to school because I started doing all this research about poverty and shit. And I realized that poverty is something that is passed down. So for me, I was like, I don't want to make it harder for my kid to live the life that she deserves because I started off her life in poverty. So I'm like, I gotta go back to school. So I end up settling in with my mama and her wife, and some family members supposed to transfer me and got me into regular high school because I didn't want to get a GED. So I go back to school, and when I go back to school, I'm older than everybody. So I'm 19. And so I'm trying to like fly under the radar because I can't get in like no trouble or they're going to put me out of school because really low key, I'm not supposed to be there. But in the state of Texas, you have until your 20th birthday, basically, like the August before your 20th birthday. As long as your birthday happens after, like, as long as you're not 20 in school, basically you could be there. So I didn't have, like, my birthday is in November, so it's like I gotta graduate in August, because if I don't, I can't do this again. So I'm like trying to focus, and I'm like avoiding all distractions. So when I say avoiding all distractions, y'all remember that room that Trey told me he met y'all in, met me in? Well, I love to write poetry. I still write poetry. I love to sing. I still sing. So during lunch, like the couple of first weeks of school, during lunch, I get into it with this girl named Macy. And I'm like, I'm getting to beat this hoe up. So I was like, you know what? I can't do the lunchroom shit no more. Like, I just gotta avoid it. So I was looking for shit to put on my resume when I got ready to go to college, because I had this whole plan out how I was gonna get me and my kid, on the right path or whatever. So I joined poetry club because I love writing poetry. So I meet the poetry teacher. Her name is Simmons, and me and her hit it off. She loved my work. Of course, I'm older than everybody. I've been through way more than everybody in the grade. So my work is really deep. So anyway, I hit it off with her, and I started eating lunch in her room every day because I'm trying to avoid all distractions. So I'm like, I'm not going to lunch. I'm not going to none of these extracurricular activities, because that leaves room for me to get distracted or get in some type of trouble. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get here, get my diploma for my baby so she can have a better life, so I can do something better. Okay, so boom. One day, also she used to bring me food. So I didn't want to eat the food. So I would give her my money, and then she would bring me food, and then I would meet her in her room. So one day it's lunchtime. I go to meet her in her room because she's supposed to bring me McDonald's or something. And I'm knocking on the door. I'm trying to walk in the door, and the door locked. And so I'm knocking. So I go in, and it's Trey and his little rap group that they got at the time, because they doing a talent show. So I go in there, and I'm looking like, why y'all got the door locked? So Miss Simmons like, oh, they rap or whatever, and they practicing for the talent show. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So one of these other dudes was low-key trying to hit on me, and he's like, oh, because I was like, y'all probably can't even rap. And then he was like, oh, you think because you in the poetry club, you can tell us if we can rap or not? And I'm like, poetry is literally music in word form. Most actually good rappers are poets. The niggas that y'all listen to is trash because they not poets. So then he was all like, oh, well, if you a poet, then no. Miss Simmons said she really is a good poet and she can sing. And so then they all started capping. They like, oh, well, let's hear something. So I told them I'm gonna let them hear my poem or whatever. I'm like, y'all not even gonna be able to follow it. So after that, I decide, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and sing this poem. So I do the poem. No, I'm sorry, my bad, I'm lying. I said, let me see what y'all got first. So they start rapping or whatever. And I'm like, as they rapping or whatever, two of the dudes in the group, I'm like, y'all could disappear because y'all suck. But then it was one other dude, and I'm like, all right, he got something. But Trey, when his part came, I was like, whoo, he got something and he fine. So anyways, when it's all over, it was like he was rapping, and it was like the other people was disappearing. It was like, you know how you start getting tunnel vision? I know it sounds cliche, but it started the room was starting to get still. So when everything was over, Trey was like, well, let us see what you got. So then I started singing. So I sang my poem or whatever. And then afterwards, they was like, damn, she got bars, blah, blah, blah. She can sing, blah, blah, blah. So then after that, I was like, well, when y'all get done playing with the talent show, y'all need to come to the poetry club. Because I was trying to recruit people for the poetry club that actually had talent and knew how to do more than just slam poetry, knew how to do other types of arts. Because I was trying to show people in the poetry club that it's not only one way to do art. So they was all like, okay, I'm gonna come. One of the dudes, Lance, he low-key was already in the poetry club, so he wasn't really talking big shit because he already knew what I had. But the other dudes wasn't. So they said it was gonna come. So I'm like, okay. So flash forward, it come time for poetry club or whatever, and it was the first meeting of the year, like the first time that everybody, or the semester. So all these people came, and I walk in the room and Trey there, and when I say he's smiling, the smiles is this big. I'm like, bro, how much do you have to smile? But again, remember, I'm avoiding all distractions. I'm not trying to like deal with no dudes. I'm not, no. Because see, the last dude had got me in trouble. So I'm like, I ain't got time for this. So I do the whole poetry meeting. I did another piece that I had. A couple other people who was in the poetry group that were in it with me. I was the president, but they did a couple pieces. We broke off into groups. We were supposed to work on certain types of pieces. So after the poetry meeting, the first poetry meeting, everybody was see, this is what he missed in his thing. Everybody was getting my number to have my contact, so me to help them work on their pieces, right? So he got that's how he actually got my number. So then, I'm not gonna lie, I was flirting with him because it was like I haven't really cared to even flirt with a dude in a long time, but you know, like it's cute or whatever. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I didn't think it was gonna go nowhere. And I did say, like, when we was outside of one of the poetry meetings, I did say, like, oh, this is my husband. I introduced him as my husband. Like, sis, talk about manifesting that thing. so anyways, I started to like him, but I was like, still, I don't have time to get distracted. So he had got my number. So one day he texted me and he was like, what time is the poetry meeting? So I'm like, you already know when the poetry meeting is. Like, don't hit me up if you're not ready to actually like spit your A-top game. So I tell him when it is or whatever, but I caught him out of shit, but I'm like, is this you? That's how you want to play. Like, this is when it is. So the next poetry meeting happens and I started to flirt with him more. But he was like the shy guy in school, so he didn't really realize that I was flirting with him. So I was like, you do know I'm flirting with you, right? And then he was like, oh, well, I thought you was, but I wasn't trying to like blah, 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 blah. So after that, I was like intending on just like, you know how y'all know how it was back in school. Like, you're like, oh, I'm just going to flirt with this person, but I'm not going to actually take it seriously. But then he started to text me. So well, as we started to talk or whatever, I was like, oh, okay, he kind of cool or whatever. But then again, I'm like, first of all, I was celibate. I had committed to celibacy. I had recommitted my life to Christ. And I had a baby. So I'm thinking like every dude that was trying to talk to me during that time, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. To try to make them hurry up and get away from me because I'm like, I'm just really trying to get these goals accomplished. So anyways, he started talking to me and we low-key like on some romantic comedy movie type shit. Staying up all night talking on the phone. Y'all know how it go when y'all talk. So then, before you know it, we had been talking for like a month. So I was still talking to a bunch of people. He was still talking to a bunch of people. And I guess I wasn't really like, again, I wasn't really taking nobody seriously. So he was like, after a month passed, he went to like the Thanksgiving break came. I think it was Christmas break came. Thanksgiving break came. And he texted me and was basically like, hey, like, I want to know if you'll be my girl. Like, what do you think? This was his verbiage. What do you think about being my girlfriend? I'm like, the fuck? Is that how you ask somebody how to be your girlfriend? So then I said, I think it'll be cool. But, you know, like, the conversation went something like, what do you expect to get out of this kind of situation? Because I'm not having sex. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I just dropped all these bums on him. So I guess we decided we was going to be exclusive. And I told him, okay, I don't want no drama. So I'm going to give you time to tell everybody that you're talking to that you got somebody. And I'm going to tell everybody I'm talking to that I got somebody. Okay. I'm going to be 100% honest with y'all. I'm 19 at the time with a baby. I'm still focused on my own personal stuff. I'm not thinking it's about to be a serious relationship, right? So I'm like, whatever. Well, this is how he won my heart. My daughter, I used to have my homeboy. We had a homeboy, still a mutual friend of ours, that me and him got real cool. At one point, my mama thought that I was dating him, but it was never nothing like that. But anyways, he would take my daughter to daycare every day, and he would bring me home. He would take her to daycare, take me to school. Then every day he would take me to get her, and he would take me home. And then when he got to the point where he couldn't do it, he would take me in the evening, but then he had another one of our homeboys pick me up in the morning. So then they kind of just did it for the whole year because they knew my struggle. Well, it got to the point where my daughter needed something, and he bought it for her. Like, I didn't even ask him for it or nothing. He asked me during a casual conversation. I was like, "Oh, well, I got to do A, B, and C for my daughter. You know, I don't know. I don't even know how I said it, but I definitely didn't say it in a thirsty, like, can you low key do it kind of way. Because I'm like the type of girl that I'm like, my mama always raised me that ain't nothing free from a man. Ain't nothing free from a woman if you're into women. Because anytime there is a possibility for a romantic relationship, if somebody give you something, then they expect something in return. But anyways, he dropped it at my house at nighttime, left it on my porch, and then he texted me and said that it was in my porch. After that, I was like, see? So then that's when I actually got invested in a relationship, because I think the way that I think is I think about people with motives. So I feel like, you know, whenever I look at types of relationships, it's like, I'm like the type of girl that is like, I don't want the nigga that's gonna fly me out. I want the nigga that's gonna buy me groceries when he see I'm struggling to buy food. That's the kind of shit I think about. Like, I'm not a materialistic type person. I'm more of a person that's like, what did you consider my circumstances? Did you consider, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a pay my bill type of person. I'm more so of like, hey, I see that you need a hand, and this is, even though you could do it yourself, I'd rather give you this than give you this. That's really not gonna have no value long term. So then after that, that's when I started taking him seriously. But still, I was kind of like, all right. Again, with my kids, I'm very protective. So after that, he still didn't meet my daughter for a long time, until one day they met in the crossfire. So one day my homeboy was taking him home because me and him was chilling, and we had like a half day at school. And this was the first time he was gonna get me to actually like chill with him, because when I said about my baby, I was about my baby. Like, after school, I ain't got time to talk. I'm gonna get my kid, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, whatever. So anyways, we had like I think it was like testing or something. I don't remember. I think it was testing. So you know how like the seniors all hang out? Well, I had this program called NCI back then where your kid was required to stay in daycare for a certain amount of time. So I couldn't pick her up anyway. So me and him chilled with my other homeboy, whatever. And then he took me to pick her up. And then he met her, but then she wasn't really like, she was just like, oh, okay, whatever. But then as time progressed, we was always together. The day that I was like, okay, I'm really, really gonna put my all into this relationship, is he would play with her all the time, but she would never like respond, until one day she cracked this really big smile for him. And then he was like, oh yeah, I got you now. After that, it was like history. So with all this being said, I'm seeing that y'all understand that he missed a lot of big points. So flash forward to the marriage part. We was together for like 10 months, 10, 11 months. And then we graduated from high school, and we was literally waiting for him to turn 18 to get married. But, you know, a lot of people, when they hear that he didn't like get on one knee and propose type thing, they go into this like societal situation where it's like, oh, well, then that means that he didn't really want you like that. And it's like, again, remember what I said about what he gave me, what he did for my daughter. I'm not a fairy tale type girl. I'm like, come to me how you would come to me in life. Like, when it's time for us to struggle in life or stand on the mountain in life, we're not going to be throwing parties and engagement parties and showing everybody how we doing. It's just going to be me and you going to sit me down and you're going to talk to me either about our struggles, or you're going to sit me down and prepare me to rejoice about our successes. I'm not into that shit. So it really was a conversation where we was on the phone, and he started talking to me about marriage, and I did not take him seriously at all. Cause I'm like, bruh, you 18 years old. You got a long way to go. And our life wasn't really the same. My life was more of a struggle than his. Not saying he just had it easy, but it was more of a struggle. So we had a conversation on the phone, and I didn't really take him seriously. And then one day he sat me down and he said, no, I'm serious. I really want to marry you. And then we agreed to get married. Like, so he kind of got that part right. But, you know, lots of people are always surprised when they're like, he didn't get down on one knee. I'm like, sis, you only want that because you see everybody else do it. I don't have time. My thing is, it's a lot of people that I've seen that were high school sweethearts, and that man did get on one knee. And guess what? None of their asses is married now. Sorry, I'm being bad. Anyways, so he kind of got that part right. It was a series of conversations of him talking to me about wanting to marry me and me not taking him seriously until he really set me down and said, no, I'm dead ass serious. So you gonna marry me or not? But that is the story. I know it's cliche. How I always say the room stood still. It's the truth. Like, it really is the truth. And that's the only way I can say it. So, I hope y'all enjoyed this. And I will see you tomorrow. Again, I'm sorry for being sorry and like not coming on here until 12 something, because like end all be all is I had to work. And y'all gotta understand that. Anyway, see y'all tomorrow.